So I'm jumping on and I want to talk to you specifically about what is femtech. I think it's really easy when you're in an industry to think that everyone else knows what you're talking about. So I just wanted to give my interpretation of femtech and explain a little bit more about why I love it and why I think it's brilliant. So to start with, femtech is the use of technology to enhance women's health. So that covers physical products, apps, solutions, platforms, that kind of thing. And within femtech, there are lots of other smaller categories. But it was originally, the term was originally created by the founder of the cycle tracking app Clue. She felt that there was a category needed to sort of bring all this innovation together that was happening. So, femtech companies existed, but they didn't have, a name to sit under, as it were. So, as I said, within femtech, there's a lot of different smaller categories. Probably the one that most people are familiar with is the sort of fertility period tracking sector. So this is where Clue comes in, and the likes of Natural Cycles and Flow, and there's a hell of a lot of cycle trackers now. But it's probably the first stop for most people. And then you move into more of the fertility products, so products where they use technology to identify when you're going to ovulate or when your fertile window is. So products like Ava, which monitors your temperature, or Ina, which is a saliva-based solution. So it's just really interesting how technology is being used in lots of different ways in that category. And increasingly we're seeing innovation around fertility services like IVF. So either platforms that are helping people find clinics or just supporting in the overall IVF process. Then I think probably the next big category is the menopause. And there's just so much to this category, because I think one of the big things about femtech is that it's not just about problem solving, which, it's brilliant because it's technology helping to solve genuine problems that women have with their health. But at the same time, so much of what's needed in femtech is about education, because a lot of the issues that femtech is solving are just cloaked in stigma, in taboo, in myths, and just lack of education. It's lack of education for women too. So it's a problem affecting everyone. It's not just people not understanding women's issues. It's women not understanding their own issues too. And I think it's fair to say that the menopause just hasn't been talked about. I think it's only really been in the last sort of 5 years, maybe even less, that people have actually had conversations about openly about what the menopause is, what it's like. The mainstream media seems to be covering it more, a lot more books about it that are kind of getting in the mainstream sellers list. But still, I mean, the majority of premenopausal women have no idea what the symptoms are. They don't know when it starts. They don't know what perimenopause is. All of those kind of things. So it's a huge category because, you know, women at some point will go through it once they get to a certain age. But it's also a huge category because there's so much to talk about and educate on. So there's sort of different sides to that menopause category. Some things are about products to help women with the symptoms, whilst others are about support for women, especially in the workplace. The likes of Peppy, just trying to get employers, to recognise the impact that the menopause can have on some women in their workplace. Next big category is sexual wellness. This, as you can imagine, stems from a lot of the stigma and the taboo, but it's interesting that it's sexual wellness, because it's about so educating women on the fact that they, can talk about their own sexual pleasure. When you think about the fact that how openly men talk about pornography, it's just not the same. Like, women just have such shame around talking about things that give them sexual pleasure. And I just love the fact that it's sexual wellness, because I just think acknowledging how important sex is and sort of your overall well-being is really important. So the innovation here is really interesting because it's exploring the fact that women are turned on in different ways. So Furley, for example, is an audio guide to sexual wellness. They sort of have an audio that helps you sort of understand what it is that gives you satisfaction. And it's also about changing the dialogue about, pleasure from sex and, who rules that conversation, and the fact that sex is not just penetrative sex. And we should all just be talking about sex in a much broader sense anyway. And then we get into femtech for specific women's health conditions that have been categorically let down by medicine. So this is the likes of endometriosis. We know, for example, in the UK that the average time it takes for diagnosis for endometriosis is about, I think, 7.5 to 8 years. And in that time, women are living with chronic pain. And it's really been linked to this concept of hysteria, which has existed for centuries, that, a lot of things are in women's heads. And it still seems to be ruling elements of medicine. So it's just astonishing that we're in the situation that we are with some of these conditions. So then, for example, there is Serona, which is an app where you can track your endometriosis symptoms, because what's really important about femtech is that it's giving us an evidence-based. It's this data, like the data mining that we need to be able to say, this isn't in our heads, this is the symptom I get day by day, this is how bad it is, so that women can be armed with the tools they need to have, proper conversations with their health specialists. And then it also covers conditions that affect both sexes, but research is increasingly showing that there's a gender disparity. So things like cardiac or heart disease and Alzheimer's. So here, for example, it's always been thought that men and women have the same symptoms of a heart attack, when actually we're beginning to understand it's not the case. And then Alzheimer's, more women than men get Alzheimer's. And so historically, we've just said, well, it's because women live longer. But now research seems to suggest it could be hormonal related, in which case something post-menopause means that women are more susceptible to Alzheimer's. So there's a whole other category as well where Femtech is helping to explore that gender divide. So for me personally, I love it because of that dual aspect between technology and like advancement and innovation, and stepping into that sort of that also male world of tech, which is brilliant, and people making tech work for women. But I think also it's just how brilliant all of this innovation is for changing the conversations that we're having around women's health. You know, this is about major milestones in women's lives: fertility, periods, menopause, you know, all of those moments when myth, stigma, taboo are, you know, have historically shaped you know, what we think about them, and what we think happens. So I just love that this category is changing that perception and empowering women, you know, and everyone to better understand what happens at those points in life, and understand you know, specific conditions related to women's health. So yeah, so for me personally, I used natural cycles to conceive my son, and I started using it 9 months before we got pregnant, and I was just sort of overwhelmed by the knowledge of myself, and seeing the patterns meant I read more around my the sort of phases of your cycle and how your hormones influence how you're feeling, you know, and it blows me away that I might feel less comfortable, less confident, less able to do something. I might make a decision at a stage in my cycle because my hormones sort of dictate it. So I just think it's really important, a really important way for people to get to know themselves better. So yeah, I think hopefully I've given you know, a handy starting point for Femtech. There's loads of brilliant people talking about it. I'm going to share more resources on my blog, and I'm sure those watching in the industry are like, you've forgotten this, you've forgotten that. But I'm inviting you to ask me anything. So if there's something about Femtech that you'd like me to know, that you'd like to know more about, you'd like me to cover in a bit more detail, yeah, let me know in the comments or drop me a message. And I just will, yeah, do what I can to share a bit more content about this sector and all the brilliant stuff that's happening. So yeah, thank you for watching for nearly 15 minutes. And yeah, go ahead, ask me anything.